That was some very painful testimony to hear, and I want to tell a very, very different story. But let me start by saying good afternoon, Chairman Gottfried and the honorable committee members. I'm here to share with you how medical aid in dying can allow a terminally ill person the option to have a very peaceful, painless, and gentle death in his or her own home, at a time when the family can come together to share and support the end of a loved one's life. That is the death my mother had. It is the kind of life end that I would like to be an option for myself, my family and friends, and for all my fellow New Yorkers. My mother, Beverly, died last year at age 89 from incurable metastatic colon cancer. To my mom, life meant service to the community. She taught in an inner city elementary school until she was 75, and then immediately began volunteering as a docent in a natural history museum and as a reading and math tutor for adults and children. My mother was so full of energy and curiosity. No day was complete without reading the newspaper, going to a current events class or the theater, and being active, preferably walking for her shopping trips or to parks and restaurants or on her travels around the world. The family called her the Energizer Bunny. But a year and a half ago, my mother was diagnosed with colon cancer, and it had already spread to her liver, and she had abdominal pain and fatigue. My mother lived in California, which had recently passed the End of Life Options Act, a law very similar to the proposed legislation we are discussing here. Mom had been a long-term supporter of medical aid in dying. She had watched her own mother die of cancer, in pain, in a nursing home, cared for by strangers. It was agony for both of them. Several years ago, Mom told me that if she developed a terminal illness, she wanted to move to Oregon in order to have the option of getting a life-ending prescription. When California passed its medical aid in dying law, Mom was so relieved that she wouldn't have to leave her home to have that option if the need for it ever came. Like Susan, my mom didn't want to die. She had a great life that she really enjoyed. But she was a realist. She accepted that death was inevitable, and with a terminal illness, her quality of life might decline to the point where she would prefer to have the end come sooner on her own terms. After her diagnosis, my mother interacted with a succession of doctors, her primary care doctor, an oncologist, surgical oncologist, palliative care specialist, and the hospice doctor. Mom told each one that she wanted to receive the medical aid in dying prescription. Her internist was not comfortable giving the prescription himself and referred Mom to palliative care, where the specialist treated Mom for her pain, as well as agreeing to serve as the attending physician if Mom wanted to receive medical aid in dying. The surgical oncologist agreed to be the consulting physician, and as she explained to Mom and my sister and me, her reasoning is she wanted to treat her patients the way she would want to be treated herself. After the diagnosis, my mother had surgery to remove the tumor in her colon, which returned her to a good quality of life for a while. We went on road trips to beaches, deserts, and mountains, and to visit her grandson, my son, in San Francisco. But inevitably, the tumors in her liver multiplied and grew, and the pain and fatigue returned. CAT scans revealed the tumors were extensive and had grown rapidly. The consulting and attending physicians independently determined that Mom had less than 6 months to live, and they began the formal process required by law. My mother told both doctors that she was requesting the end-of-life prescription. She also made the request in writing. She repeated the oral request 2 weeks later as required. The doctors certified that my mom was mentally competent and that in their best medical opinions, she was terminally ill with less than 6 months to live. The attending physician gave her the prescription and it was filled at the pharmacy. My mother knew that she could take that prescription at any time or never. She had the prescription for 2 weeks before taking it. Her health had continued to decline rapidly. She was spending more and more time in bed, had no energy to prepare meals, watch the news, or walk out the front door. Personal care had become increasingly difficult, and it was clear she would soon need full-time health aides. My mother was a very private, reserved, very independent person. She did not want strangers in her home helping her take care of her personal needs. Mom was already receiving hospice care, but found the nurses' visits intrusive. Additional care was not what she wanted. If it would lead to a healthy life, she would have accepted it. But looking forward, realistically, Mom knew that her quality of life was only going to get worse. When my mother told me it was time, my sister and our husbands joined us at Mom's home. And despite our deep sadness and the stress of our impending loss, we decided to make it a celebration of our love for our mother. So Mom had a collection of these wonderful t-shirts from her work at the Natural History Museum. They had dinosaurs, butterflies, bugs, and we all donned one of those t-shirts and took pictures of the 5 of us together on that last day. My sister gave Mom a back massage. After taking the anti-nausea medication, my mother had an hour before it would be time to take the life-ending prescription. Usually Mom would take a shower in the morning, but she joked that she really didn't see the point since she was going to be cremated. I reminded her how much she enjoyed the warm water falling on her neck and her back, and she smiled, and we helped her into the shower. When the time came, Mom lay on her own bed, in her own home, with her daughters at her side, holding her, and she swallowed the life-ending prescription. Within just a few minutes, she slipped gently into unconsciousness. For the following 5 hours, my sister and I and our husbands were at her side, cuddling her and talking and singing to her as her breathing changed and then slowed and then eventually stopped. It was such a peaceful, gentle, truly beautiful way to have a life end. Chairman Gottfried, Assembly Member Pollen, and committee members, thank you for holding this hearing and offering me the opportunity to share my family's personal experience with medical aid in dying.